And welcome to Light Years. Samus Fandiari here, sitting in for Andy Liu. I got my guy, Aaron Larsoul. The Warriors beat the Houston Rockets 116-101. I feel like we got to start where the story is. Number 11, Klay Thompson.
Yep.
12 threes, 42 points. Just absolute heater. And I have a lot of thoughts on Klay, and it's very hard for me to dive into this without going full nostalgia and feelings and all that sort of stuff. But at this point, can we be honest? One, he's back. Two, outside of Kevin Durant, who is an alien and maybe one of the 5 most talented basketball players of all time, it's hard to think of a player who's had an Achilles injury, and let's forget about the knee, who's come back as well as Klay Thompson has. Last year was a little up and down. He had his games, but it wasn't necessarily the Klay of past. But the last 3 months, I mean, he looks like Klay, and I think that's something that should be celebrated and talked about a little bit.
Yeah, and was it? I think it was January, right? January was the highest scoring month of his career. So
correct.
And now I think it's the last 2 back-to-backs. He's played both legs.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think you do see him turning a corner. I'm kind of officially. There still is the occasional shot hunting and the what are you doing off the bounce stuff, but.
Hey, I think
Klay's back.
That was their pre-injury.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, but I think Klay is I think Klay's back. Officially, Klay is back.
Yeah, yeah. And we can go into it since Christmas. Going into tonight, he's been averaging about 25 points per game on his normal efficiency, which is very efficient, 42, 43% on ridiculous volume from 3. And for me, it's just, I didn't think he could get back to this level. I'm going to be honest with you. I was happy with the level he was at last year. I thought that was realistically what he was going to be post 2 injuries, post 30 months out. And the best way to describe Klay is he's just a motherfucker. He did not want to accept that was the case. And he kept working at it and got very frustrated when the Charles Barkleys of the world were like, "Oh, he's washed. It's over," And it's just, look, man, he's part of a 4 championship core. We'll see how it plays out before he retires, but you don't get to that level of play without having a certain level of fuck you in you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's also the other important piece in this is we talk about or we think about, and we kind of make fun of him, Klay, all he likes to do is hoop, shoot the ball, knock down IG models, play with his dog and smoke weed. He doesn't have a whole lot of interests. Not a bad life, by the way, and go out on the boat, not a bad life, right? But I think that has helped him in this case, weather the ups and downs. And he's kind of just he takes basketball very seriously, but that kind of surfer guy mentality, the Southern California surfer kind of laid back, quiet, just kind of keep to myself and just hoop thing. I think that has helped him kind of weather this. And you saw it on his face today, as they called the last time out as he was kind of getting the crowd into it and the special relationship he has with Dub Nation. But I think an underrated part of his ability to come back psychologically is that he needs to hoop. He wants to hoop and it's his favorite thing in the world, but he's kind of just, whatever, I do what I do. And so there's going to be moments, but he's always had that confidence in, even when some of us haven't, he's always had the confidence in shooting the ball. So I was always confident that the jumper would come back, but he has been significantly better in all of the other things than I anticipated. Much more quickly, I guess.
And I think that's the big part. It's is Klay going to forget how to shoot? Of course not, dude. He's one of the greatest of all time at that. But to be able to hunt your shot and get shots up at the volume he does in an NBA game, I don't know. When he tore his Achilles, my gut instinct was he's probably going to transition to being a role player. Right? He's going to be that guy who gets 10 to 15 points a game, and he'll have his occasional 5 3-point game, but it's a lot of like 9 and 8 point per game floor spacer game, right?
So yeah, I thought he was going. I thought his offensively. My supposition was Klay was going to be like 70% Klay, because I thought he would be like 85% Klay on offense and whatever 55% Klay on
even
defense.
It out to get to 70.
Yeah. And that's been sort of right, although he's figured out ways to still be effective defensively. He's a completely different defensive player, and he's not anywhere near as good.
He's not the sticking on the point guard point of attack guy.
His strength and size, decent size, has allowed him to be still an effective defensive player. But that, I mean, like he just like that laser he's got on his right arm, like that thing still works, and he has found a way to not get as frustrated. And this is what I was talking about earlier with his mentality. He's found a way not to get as frustrated as he was when he was first coming back, with the shot not falling and figuring out that he can still be useful. So he's learning again not to hunt in the same ways he was. But it's like, it's special to see, especially when like the moments he has with the crowd, and he's able to reclaim that, whatever, 2014, 15, 16, 18 Klay.
19 even. Yeah. And I feel like it ties to kind of like, look, the Warriors are 30-30 now. Nice win against a terrible team.
They're awful.
Doesn't change all the issues the Warriors have. Doesn't change the fact that they need Steph Curry back. They need Andrew Wiggins back. They need GP2 back. They need a bunch of stuff to go their way. But for the night, it's nice to, just kind of experience that moment with a player who's undoubtedly a franchise legend. And it ties to, if you want to be honest, nothing about this team signifies that they're going to make a run, Right. Injuries, inconsistency, inability to guard anyone without fouling has been kind of their theme all year. But their core, they are world champions. They are guys who have proven that they can do it against anyone at the highest level for a decade. So, like, if you're sitting here as a fan, your belief is truly tied to the fact that, look, man, you can tell me Devin Booker's a better player than Klay Thompson, and I might even buy it. But when chips are on the floor, I'm going to ride with the guy who I've seen win rings over. And that's kind of where you are with the Warriors. Like, we can microanalyze everything. We're going to get into the young guys. We're going to talk about Patrick Baldwin, Kuminga, all that sort of stuff. But I feel like if you're being honest with yourself, where we're at with this team is mostly this belief that they can dig into a level that they quite frankly haven't all year, because they've done it before.
Yeah, and like I've seen some people making comparisons to last year, right? And the Warriors went on a run. They were pretty mediocre for much of the year, but at the beginning of the year, I think the Warriors were started 18-2. So you saw there was that gear. At least you knew that top end was there.
Just to be clear, they started 18-2, and they actually were 28-6 when Draymond got hurt. So that's almost that's 40% of the way through the season, 34 games in. And then they were dealing with injuries the rest of the way, and they played garbage. But like we knew we had a substantial enough sample size to know that there was a team here.
So, and that just hasn't been there this year.
No,
I agree with you though. The Warriors are, and for different reasons, but the reason you mentioned, but it's different normally, because normally it's the like puncher's chance thing with, Team X hasn't played well, but they have one guy that just terrifies you, or two guys that terrify you. That
they have something that's like you.
Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah.
So that's not. I mean, the Warriors do have that, right? Steph is the boogeyman, but that's not what it is with the Warriors. And look, I don't think Denver wants no part of the Warriors if that's 1-8. Memphis wants no part of the Warriors.
I don't think Memphis. They'll talk it up, but they're praying that they get the Pelicans.
So, but the thing with the Warriors and the playoffs, again, we have no evidence. But this year, we have no evidence with this team. There's the evidence in the past, but we have no evidence this year. And so some of it's faith. And like I've said this a bunch. I don't know if I've said it on your show, but maybe that they're like the team version of LeBron. Like for years, you can predict LeBron's downfall, right? Sure. Like eventually he's not going to be that guy anymore. But every time you predict that, you're wrong so far. And every time you think the Warriors are done, right? They don't have that. You're wrong. So yeah. I'm going to wait until after somebody beats them to say they can't do it anymore. I'm going to wait till after LeBron is officially. Yeah.
It's to your point. They have not lost a series with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green healthy on the floor since 2016. And I will debate that. I will debate the health of that one. But you get my point.
But even put health, but Draymond missed a game. Every series that those three guys have started and finished every game, the Warriors have won.
Yeah, that's it. That's literally what it's like. You hang your hat on it. It's like, look, I have a large amount of evidence which suggests this is not a contender. But I also have this thing which tells me, look, man, if they're going to get knocked off, I just have a hard time imagining it's the Memphis fucking Grizzlies. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but it's like one of those things where it's like, until I see someone run through them, I can't in good faith be like, it's over, you know?
And I think also for the Warriors, maybe more than most, I think matchups are going to be a big thing in the playoffs. Which is why, like, Denver, sure, like, okay, yeah, go play drop coverage with Thomas Bryant and Jokic for 48 minutes a night, and try that against Poole and Steph and Klay, right? So I think the matchups will matter a lot for the Warriors, but I mean, like, the team that we've seen the last 2 nights specifically, like, I'm not all that confident they're going to make it. If they do make it, I feel pretty good about their chances, but I'm not all that confident the Warriors are going to make it.
Well, a big part of that is going to be if they're healthy. Steph Curry, we talked about it on yesterday's show and everyone's seen it. He's getting reevaluated next Wednesday. It sounds like he's going to be back shortly after that. We don't know if that's Thursday against the Clippers or maybe it's Sunday against the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, Fitz is Fitz, but on the broadcast he said they alluded to they thought he was going to be back within a week to 10 days, like shortly after the reevaluation. He's already been ramping up apparently.
They play a back-to-back next Thursday, Friday. So in my head, I've always thought, he's not going to sit he's not going to play the first half of the back-to-back against the Clippers, but the second half against the Pelicans, a team that they're dealing with play-in seeding. Plus, like, in general, you're not going to have a guy come back from injury and play 2 legs of back-to-back. That's what I was thinking. But, like, you know how it goes. The Warriors could be 3 days after that. The point is,
I mean, the Warriors are very are very cautious.
And given last year, I can't really complain about the way the medical staff's handled it because it's worked. But, like, to your point, yes,
they're conservative.
It'll be somewhere in that first-ish week of March, and that's positive. But they still have to go on a run after that. Like, we can get excited about Klay's night tonight and beating Houston. They are still, and I'm pulling the standings up right now, 30-30. Currently, they are tied for the 8-9 seed, and technically the Pelicans have the tiebreaker because the Warriors sat their starters both the games they played against the Pelicans. Minnesota, 31-31, so, like, still 500 record. It's like, it's not like they're far off from there, but they are a game and a half out of getting out of the play-in.
Yeah.
And
well, that's why the Pelicans one, you were talking about the Clippers and Pels back-to-back, but that's why that's the one. If Steph's only going to play one of them, that's the one, right? Because
particularly with no Zion, that has to be a W.
Well, but also for tiebreaker,
for
tiebreaker purposes, right? So all these games against Minnesota and the Lakers and the Pelicans and, like, all the kind of the bunch. I don't know if the Warriors play Portland again, but all, like, these teams kind of
they play Portland next week
and OKC, right?
They play just to be clear, they only have 2 games against the East the rest of the way, so they're playing everyone in the West like at least once, and a lot of teams twice. They're playing Portland on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not quite positive.
So some of those, I mean, when it relates to tiebreaker, you can think of those as like 3-game swings, right? Because you have the one, you get the win, and whoever
you beat the Pelicans and they lose, you've 2 games right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, right. And then if that has something to do with the tiebreaker, that's kind of an extra game. So those are huge swing games.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting swing. So if they get Steph back next Friday, he'll have missed 10 games and they'll have 19 games with him healthy. Got to assume he sits one of those. So 18 games. We'll call it 17 or 18 games with Steph Curry. Is that enough time to make a run to dethrone Dallas or Phoenix and get out of the play-in? It's getting very tight, like you have no margin.
Yeah.
You at some point you're hoping one of those teams also has some bad luck, be it, it's like someone rolls an ankle and misses 5 games type of situation.
I mean, the issue is, and this has been the case in the West now for a couple months, and it's kind of a red herring because everybody says team X is only a game and a half or 2 games out of the play-in or out of the 6th seed or in 4, like ahead of whatever. And it feels like it's close, but the problem is, fine, like 2 games is not a lot of games, but if there's 3 or 4 teams in between you that are also there, right? That makes it a bigger, then it's more than just the 2 games because you have to have progress from those other teams as well.
To your point, the Warriors are playing the Minnesota Timberwolves on Sunday. They are basically tied with the Warriors. They're both 500. Minnesota's just played 2 more games. That gives them a chance to hop over them. And then they play the Pelicans next week, gives them a chance there. But there's still a lot of teams you just have to go through. Like Dallas can be mediocre the rest of the way and still probably find a way to be like a game ahead of you, Yeah. That sort of thing.
No, they're not. Well, yes, go ahead.
What were you saying?
I was just gonna make fun of Dallas's defense, but
I mean, they're not gonna hold their seating on getting stops. That's for sure.
No. I was actually speaking of the broadcast. I often don't watch the Warriors broadcast when watching Warriors games for reasons that you understand.
No comment.
Yeah. But they did. I didn't know this. You talked about the Warriors fouling too much, but not only do they put their opponent on the line the most, they take the fewest free throws. So that is not a good combination. That's like, in football, when they say the hidden yardage, right? Punts and punt, all that's like the hidden yardage in basketball. If you're putting your opponent on the line more than anybody and you are taking the fewest free throws, that's not a good combination.
Yeah. I mean, it's not surprising when you watch the Warriors play. Like, they are a very 3-point centric team. Yes. They're not a force to the rim type of team, but it's still jarring, for a team who's the defending champion. You wouldn't think they'd be the worst in the league at it. If I told you they're 26th, you'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. 24th, that makes sense. For something about being worst, it just feels wild.
They're also really small and pretty unathletic, and those things get you in trouble defensively, which causes you to reach and use hands, and
they don't play with a ton of force. There's no way around that. Awesome asks, PBJ not playing, explain. I feel like this is a great transition topic to look. The Warriors, they traded for GP2, and hopefully he's healthy before the end of the season, and I do think he has a chance to really make an impact for them because he's one of those guys who's more impactful than necessarily his numbers will say if he's physically right.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else aside is going to have to come from within. And a frustrating thing about this team all year has been they've been playing 2-way guys over their young guys. Patrick Baldwin looked excellent tonight. 4 for 8, 3 for 5 from 3, 11. I mean, that dude can fucking shoot. I don't know how else to put it.
Yes.
And he's smart. And he fits, like, I don't know, I think he can be better than Otto Porter long term because he's young. And when players are young, like, they could be anything, right?
Sure,
like that sort of thing, right? But at minimum, he reminds me so much of Otto Porter. The way the shot is pure. He can shoot on the move, which not a lot of guys at 6'9", 6'10" can. You know what I mean?
He reminds me of somebody else who I have like the biggest basketball crush on, and who I think.
Are you going to say MPJ?
Yes, I did. Who I was going to say I no longer think that because back injuries are just a thing that you just destroy careers. But I thought he was going to lead the league in scoring at some point.
I mean,
he reminds me of.
I don't disagree with you on MPJ having that level of talent before. He ends up on the old man infirmary list like you and me.
I was talking to the other thing about him, and this is especially important as it relates to whether he should be playing or Anthony Lamb should be playing. In my opinion, Anthony Lamb should see 0 seconds, and Patrick Baldwin Jr. should take all of his minutes.
Now you're just playing to the crowd, but anyway.
Because the excuse that Kerr makes, among others, is that it's more of a position of need, the size. Well, first of all, Anthony Lamb doesn't rebound, and Patrick Baldwin Jr. is also significantly bigger than he is. And I was watching the Warriors and Lakers last night with Austin Reeves' agents, who also are Jake LaRavia's agent, the rookie from Memphis. He worked out with Patrick Baldwin Jr. in pre-draft stuff. And as Patrick Baldwin Jr. was a flamethrower when it didn't matter last night, they were talking about how Jake LaRavia had kept saying that Patrick Baldwin Jr. is just enormous. And so I'm not he's a legit 6'10", 6'10 and a half. Nobody can bother his shot.
So I was at Summer League with you, and the first take I had when I watched him is like, oh, he is
a big boy.
He is a legit 6'10".
Yeah.
And you know what it's like? Like, look, you've been around enough NBA guys and you've been in enough gyms. Everyone's 6'7", 6'8", right?
Sure.
And some of those guys are more like 6'5", like our friend Anthony Lamb. And some of those guys are 6'10", like Patrick Baldwin. And that was the first thing that stood out to me. Is like, no, this dude he's as tall as Looney. And when I went to a Warrior game earlier this year, I'm like, he might be a little taller than Looney.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the type of thing where it's just like, look, feel, shooting skill set, and he's got the physical tools, which you can't teach. I understand he had a nightmare year in his leg. He had the foot injury and the ankle, and like that stuff's scary. And in many ways that probably helped the Warriors out because he would not have fallen as far as he did because of that. But like, this dude has the rare combination of size, feel, and skill that
especially
you do not
shooting skill. And that's so important. The combination of the size and the shooting skill is so important because, like, look at KD, look at Michael Porter Jr., look at Dirk, right? He's not that level of player, obviously.
He's not top 50 all time already.
No, but like the one thing about those guys is if you can shoot it, if you're that tall and you can shoot it that purely, nobody can do anything about it because they just can't bother you.
And
like,
it opens
PG
everything
is another
also.
example.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like a legit 6'10" with a pure stroke, nobody can do anything about it. There's no way to affect that. So, yeah, I mean, it's to answer the question from before, I don't know. I think it's been the wrong decision.
I think he's closer to Kuminga as a prospect than he is to Moses Moody, in the sense of I know he was picked 28th, which by the way, 28th's been a good pick to the Warriors because Jordan Poole was the 20th pick.
Yeah.
This is obviously just like luck, but anyway, my point is, like, I think
who was the dude from Cincinnati that Draymond loved that was terrible?
Jacob Evans.
Yeah, he was 28th, wasn't he?
16 game player. We didn't specify what league those 16 games were in.
Got it.
And I think Damian Jones might have actually been the 28th pick. He might have also been the 29th. So anyway, the point is he's right around there too. But I will say, I think Patrick Baldwin has as high of upside as anyone outside of Jonathan Kuminga in this team. And I felt this way even when they had Wiseman on the roster. Not to talk about him because I want to get out of that. But like when I was watching, I was just like 6'10" with pure, like, high volume 40% shooting. Like, that's a thing, So,
well, the other part of it that I think is, and you mentioned it, like the Warriors probably don't have a chance to draft him unless his one season in college goes as poorly as it did, because he was a top 10 recruit.
Yeah, exactly.
And so those guys,
there's thoughts of him going first overall.
And that is the one thing that drafting later, and if you win and you draft later, you get to take a chance on upside, right? The Warriors made a mistake when they were dominating everybody. Like, we're going to take these safe picks. We need somebody that can help a little bit right now. We need somebody cost controlled and safe, can play 10 minutes a night for us.
Right.
And those guys there was no upside there, and they weren't any good. If you're going to take a swing and a miss, especially towards the end of the first round, do it on somebody with that kind of pedigree. And like, there's a reason the guys that are top 10 in their high school class, there's a reason for it.
Yeah. It's not because their parents bought the ranking.
No,
at least at some point
it can
in
be
the process they were the best
coaching.
player of their age.
Yeah, and you can see why. And like, again, I don't like, in my opinion, he should have been playing all of Anthony Lamb's minutes all year. Like, just like two-way guys. Look, the Warriors have done well, and credit to Kirk Lacob and whoever else for identifying guys that can come in and help a little bit as two-way guys. Like,
Dunleavy, all those guys, yeah.
But like, yeah, it's great that you probably have the best, or I don't know if they're the best two-way guys, but you've gotten more production than anybody else out of your two-way spots. But that, like, it's a blessing and a curse, right? The fact that those guys can play. Yeah, it is a Clippers meltdown, and it's great. The fact that you, like, those guys have helped is great, but the fact that you need those guys to help is an indictment.
Can we talk Jonathan Kuminga real quick before we get to voicemails?
Yeah.
I feel like he's being done a disservice with what the Warriors are trying to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it feels like they're trying to neuter him and make him kind of a guy who just kicks out to shooters and plays within a role. And I get it conceptually. When Steph comes back, and you obviously have Klay Thompson, I don't need Kuminga, in his bag when Steph is open in one corner and Klay's open in another, right? Like, you want him understanding awareness to find, your better players. But at the same time, he's the only guy on this team who can put pressure on the rim with consistency against high-level defenses. Like, athletically, he can put pressure against anyone.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the way that they're developing out is not only, forget beneficial for him, but beneficial for the team, because that's the thing that really matters.
It's not. It simply is not. And the problem, it illustrates the problem with the two timeline thing, because teams have different life cycles, and coaching does too. And a good example of this is Kenny Atkinson on the Warriors bench, right? He was the right guy for the job for that Brooklyn team that was plucky and was trying to get to somewhere before they attracted KD and Kyrie, right? But once they got those guys, that's a different life cycle for the team, for the organization, and he was no longer seen as the right guy for that. So the problem with the two timeline thing is, like, if you think Kerr is, the thing he's best at is the kumbaya stuff, getting the best out of his guys, of a good team, obviously the system in place with Steph, but he clearly isn't the right guy and isn't interested in developing guys. That's just not, it's not a strong suit of his. So if you don't have a coach
let me back this up. It's hard to develop guys. It takes a very special mindset to be able to develop guys while also competing at the same time. Like, that's not an easy ask of a coach.
No,
most coaches will default to what Steve's doing.
Yes, but that gets you a little bit of the worst of both worlds, right? Because he's not going to play the young guys because they don't have the graduate level degree in Warriors basketball.
Not everyone, Tony Lamb.
So then they don't get any reps, right? And then they don't develop, and then you're not getting the best out of them anyway. And they're not going to be ready for whatever you hope they're ready for in the post Steph time. And Steve's not the right guy to develop them, and he'll tell you that he doesn't want to play these guys. But this is why the Warriors always are at an athletic deficiency. because those top level guys, the big prospects, yeah, they usually have some skill. Wiseman had some skill, but they are bigger, stronger, faster than the guys they're playing against. And those guys often are not ready to play Warriors basketball. So the guys that are athletes and the guys that are like can get by on talent and haven't learned the Warriors way yet, they just don't get to play. And therefore you miss out on all the athleticism and the talent because they're not PhD level Warriors guys.
You're playing the 6'4" dude who the reason he's available is because he's not 6'6", right?
Yeah, and is slow and can't, right?
Sure,
sure. Which is frankly like a little bit of Moody, right? And why Kerr would play. He's smart, he knows what he's doing, but like he's athletically at a disadvantage, which is why he was the 14th pick instead of the 6th pick.
Sure.
And he's a little small, all this kind of stuff. So, but you don't get the development and you don't get to
I feel like it's
the benefit of the guys that are super talented and athletic and can learn all the Warriors way and put those two things together. And so the Warriors just don't have.
Can I ask you a question? Like gun to your head. I don't know why I went with it's an expression, but it's kind of extreme.
Right, I was gonna say that's ominous.
What do you think is a realistic upside for Jonathan Kuminga? Not best case, not like what, like if you could put him in the right situation, get him in the right coaches, and all that sort of stuff, what do you think he can be?
I mean, this is a name you bring up a lot, but in relation to him, but I think he can be a multiple-time All-Star. You think it's the jumper that he needs. I think it's the handle is more important. But
fair enough.
I think he could be a multiple-time All-Star. The good name you mentioned is always Jaylen Brown. That's pretty optimistic, but I think Kuminga has that level of talent. The question is, like, at some point it becomes too embedded and too late for, like you were saying, in the perfect situation. Like if he went to the perfect situation now, it might be too late because of what has happened in the first, whatever year and a half of his career to get to that high level.
I will feed myself Kool-Aid real quick.
Okay.
And just remind you, he is the same age Jaylen Brown was as a rookie. So he's 1 year younger than Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown was a 20-year-old rookie, turned 20 in October of his rookie year. Kuminga turned 19 in October of his rookie year. So, like, not willing to write it off just yet.
No, I'm still very, very
but
high.
To your point,
to
your point, I get what you're saying. So
I'm still very, very high on Kuminga, and I think there is still a world in which he is a multiple-time All-Star. You and I were texting during the game, and you were talking about his passing, right? And he's like figured out the Warriors' way in passing. And I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think he has the quick decision making yet. I think the passing itself is there, but the quick decision making, when to move, when to pass it, when to put it on the ground, when to shoot it, like that stuff isn't there yet. But the raw talent, the raw passing talent is there.
Yeah, I mean, he sees the floor. To me, that's the biggest thing. Like, he's not lost out there. Now it's just about like refinement, and like honestly, that's the difference between him being just like another rotation wing and him being an exceptional wing, right? So can you refine it to the point where he is a exceptional player? Like, I've said Jaylen Brown a bunch just because I feel like there's some similarities in terms of skill set and development trajectory, but like, we'll see, like that is, it is a 1-of-1 situation. Like you can't, like, if he doesn't become that doesn't mean he flopped in any capacity. That just means Jaylen Brown is like a high achiever.
I think like even the low end of the outcomes, he's still like a solid starter. I think that's probably the like floor. Like Jaylen Brown had all the talent in the world, but had some of the same foibles like in his 1 year at Cal.
Yeah, the handle was terrible.
Yeah, and it was like, and he couldn't shoot. Jalen's handle still is a little, but like a lot of stuff, him running people over, offensive fouls, like some of the same stuff, and just like completely relying on the athleticism. But I think there's a world in which Kuminga is like, again, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that he's a multiple-time All-Star.
I love it. Okay. Let's get to voicemails. Timmy, what do we got?
Hey, I love your perspective on why PBJ doesn't get more minutes. Feels like he doesn't miss from three. I'm not sure why Anthony Lamb continues to get minutes. We have some promising young players. I'd love to see them develop as opposed to us training them for nothing in return. So I would love for you guys to chat specifically about PBJ. I think he's a very underrated talent and will be a core part of the squad going forward. So I'm looking forward to hearing your pod.
Big Tony. Big Tony's just going to get the slander. I
mean, to be fair, he's bad at basketball.
I always have a hard time like criticizing two-way guys just because it's like, bro, they're
that's fair, right? Like the fact that you need them is the problem. Yeah.
To me, it's more about Steve Kerr. Like he's paid the big bucks. He's the guy who can carry the brunt of it, and I'm not gonna like.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Tony
as it relates to PBJ, I'm actually kind of surprised that he's been stapled to the bench as much as he has been, especially with what he showed. And the reason for that is the Warriors are obviously trying to, let's say, minimize cost. And for somebody that's cost controlled for quite some time, at a low number because he was drafted later in the first round.
That's the part that never gets mentioned.
You need the greatest value production.
The greatest value on earth is the end of the first round because it costs you nothing forever.
You want to develop him now because he's gonna be somebody you're going to want to be able to count on 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when he's making $4 million, and you need him as a main rotation piece or even maybe a starter. So the fact that you have delayed his development by a year or two because you haven't been willing to play him now, and you're not winning games now, I think is a misstep. He could be the replacement for somebody like the Otto Porter. Okay, like somebody left somebody left who was playing more because, like GP2, right? Like we would have given you 6, but you got 9. Okay, you got to go. This is why you need the development from the cost-controlled guys.
I agree. All right, let's move forward because we hit on PBJ before a little bit.
Hey, y'all, it's Nate. I think just tonight, I hope people just talk about Klay. I think people really need to remember how much we missed him for 2 years. And I feel like we've taken him for granted a lot recently. So I just hope that we didn't bury the lead tonight talking about the show and just really celebrate how amazing it is, what Klay is still able to do, and honestly how good he's been for the last 3 months. He deserves a lot of recognition, especially for tonight.
No, I agree with him. And that's why we opened the show on that one. I appreciate Nate calling in. And honestly, we should talk a little more about Klay. Actually, I got something I want to play for everyone.
Okay.
So the Sydney Kings are in the playoffs in the Australian League. If you're into that sort of thing.
Which is Justinian Jessup play there? Is he still?
My guy Bogues is part owner.
What's up, fellas? It's Klay Thompson of the Dubs. I just want to tell y'all, the Sydney Kings, good luck going back to back. I know how hard that is. Bogues knows how hard that is. Unfortunately, we fell a little short in 2016, but I wanted to just tell y'all to finish the job. And big party coming when you do. Town's going to be going crazy. Sydney's going up. So just be yourselves, trust your teammates, and have fun, and go back to back, baby.
Klay's the best.
I mean, we've already talked about the basketball. Shout out Nate for bringing up the question, but I just want to revel in. You don't always get to root for a personality that's just charismatic. I guess is the best way to put it. And it's charismatic because you've seen him play in the highest pressure moments and respond to it. And just I'll pull up the meme right now, but it's like X-ray with dog and chest.
Yeah.
I'd rather at this point, I don't know, maybe they have 3 more years in them. Maybe it's over. But I'd rather ride with it and just be these dudes objectively created the greatest era of Warriors basketball. And I feel very confident in saying no one's ever going to match it.
I agree with that. And
not in your or my lifetime.
Is Klay might be the most like universally liked guy in the league.
Yeah.
Even fans from rival teams, everybody loves Klay. Everybody loves Klay.
There's such a earnest and like honesty to him. Like it's just like there's no bullshit, you know?
Yeah,
so it's like,
effortless magnetism. Yes.
Yeah, you just ride with it. And like he does deserve to have kind of that love behind him. So I appreciate it. I'm in favor of just waxing poetic about Klay because God knows they're going to lose a game in 2 days. It's going to make me mad.
Klay will be 5 for 22.
It's okay. It's okay. We
he's got a lot of yes.
Wait,
he's made a lot of deposits.
I'll pull up some Game 6 highlights and just be like, it's okay, guys. It's okay.
And
Tim,
low-key, he played the most minutes in the playoffs last year. I mean,
that's the wild part. Like he's just a dog, you know. Like he's gonna go out on the court no matter what, you know. And like maybe you should think deeper about having the guy with his entire lower body surgically repaired playing the most minutes, but that's a different conversation.
Good game. Disgusting how hard I was rooting against the Rockets team that didn't have most of their best players, even though all their players suck. It's fuck Houston forever. So fuck Houston forever. Warriors about to win the title from the 8th seed out of the play-in. Get it.
I have nothing to add.
First off, appreciate my guy Ty for that one. I can ask you a question. If there was a season a team would make a title run from below the 6th seed, is this the season?
I mean, it certainly could be in the West. I think the Celtics and the Bucks are kind of lapping
the East
field.
Is a little more traditional with the power. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, as we've been talking about here, you know, a 3-game losing streak for just about anybody in the West could put them in the play-in. So yeah, I think there's a chance for a handful of teams to do some noise. My sports broadcasting cliche, to make some noise in the playoffs from 7, 8, 9, 10 even.
That's true. All right, let's get to the last one, Timmy.
I'll say it once. Klay Thompson, he's the best. I'll say it again, just in case. Klay Thompson, he's the best. One more time. Klay Thompson, he is the best.
I have nothing to add. I'm going to end it on that one. Aaron, I appreciate you, my man. Klay Thompson. Can we get that sound drop? Is he the best?
I'll say it once. Klay Thompson, he's the best. I'll say it again, just in case. Klay Thompson, he's the best. One more time. Klay Thompson, he is the best.
Appreciate everyone who listened tonight.